It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, time to get a little new microphone screen protector. Woo! Smells like horse. What's up, everybody? It is Friday night. What's today's date? July 26, 2024. Welcome to your latest edition of The Sit Down. I am Don Tony. I may sound tired, but I am somewhat invigorated. I want to thank you for joining me this evening. Now, I'm going to let everybody know right up front that tonight's show is definitely going to be shorter. Probably only going to go about an hour tonight because I actually got to take care of a few personal things later this evening. SmackDown just went off the air, and I'm not going to lie to you. I skimmed through it. We saw the spoilers last week. There's a lot of people that probably still don't even realize SmackDown was taped last week because they're in Japan. And by the way, did anybody happen to catch that video of somebody in Japan presenting Cody Rhodes with that vintage 70s robe and the hat? A lot of people think that was the original. I do not believe so. I looked at it closely, and there's a few things that are quite different about it. And personally, why would you wait 40 some odd years to give it to Cody? You know what I mean? Like, I haven't heard any backstory behind it. And don't you think that probably would have made America's most wanted treasures, especially with the way they've been propping up Cody Rhodes for the last 2 years? I think that was a replica. But the thing I find funny is that if it was a replica, maybe you make it a little bit smaller in size. So when Cody puts it on, it doesn't look like a bathrobe. But it's still very, very cool, though. Very, very cool. And let me tell you something. If that was a replica, it's one of the greatest replicas I have ever seen as far as that kind of detail. If you haven't seen it yet, go on Twitter. It's all over Twitter. But SmackDown was taped a week ago. And now everybody is aware the Bloodline have become the next number one tag team contenders for the WWE Tag Team Championships, SmackDown Tag Team Championships. You also had Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax beat Meechin and Bayley, which we kind of expected. But, you know, the big focus tonight was to determine new number one contenders for the SmackDown tag titles, and it was a gauntlet match. And basically what happened was you had Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews beat Legado in the first gauntlet match. And then you had basically the Street Profits come out and then run the table until they ran into the Bloodline. And I find it very interesting that Tonga Loa was the choice to put in this match. To me, I think that's a telltale sign. I do not see Tonga Loa becoming a WWE champion. I just don't have that vibe. I don't have that feeling behind it. Nothing against him personally, but, you know, sometimes when people show up on the main roster, you just get that vibe like, there's just something really, really missing with them. But I'll say this. Obviously, the Usos are returning. Obviously, Roman Reigns is returning. Then we got to figure out how we come up with the teams for Survivor Series. And, you know, my co-host Kev Castle has been talking about Sami Zayn reuniting with the Bloodline, which I think, you know, looking back on it is a brilliant prediction. Just for merchandise purposes, God, you know, just the new Usi stuff. And I know people are going to be like, you know, I don't really want to revisit it. We just dealt with that a couple of years ago. Big deal. Back in the day, you'd be surprised how many Stone Cold shirts came out or how many variations of the NWO or other shirts out there. So I don't have any issue with it. But I will say this. The Usos and Roman Reigns should not, you should take a page from the storyline with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. CM Punk absolutely in storyline was not going to let Drew McIntyre have that moment in the sun. Yes, he won the championship at WrestleMania, but that technically was the beginning of the feud we have now. Instead of Drew just celebrating with his wife and going off into the sunset, he decided to focus on CM Punk at WrestleMania, and it backfired, and Damian Priest cashed in the briefcase, and the rest is history. Ever since WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre has been screwed every single time that he was this close of getting that championship orgasm. Money in the Bank, yeah, you win the briefcase, but you were not going to cash in and be victorious. You kind of think WWE's got to take the same page when it comes to the bloodline, the Rogue bloodline. How stupid would it look if Tonga Loa and Tama Tonga become tag team champions next week on SmackDown and the Usos do nothing to sabotage it? We have a weak hype for it. So you kind of feel like, okay, something should happen. And listen, wouldn't that be something to have the Usos show up at SmackDown the day before SummerSlam? I know what some people are going to say, save your bullets for SummerSlam. Surprise everybody at SummerSlam. Well, you know what? If you tease even one of the Usos, even just one, on Friday, now you get everybody talking. Holy shit, I think Roman Reigns and the other Uso, whoever it ends up being, are going to show up at SummerSlam. And you'll get people to tune in just to see if that happens. So I'm very, very curious to see what goes down next week. We'll see. And next week, as we all kind of expected, we have Alba Fire and Isla Dawn having a rematch against Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I almost feel that with the interaction that we had on Raw with Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, I wonder if they show up on SmackDown next week and cause a clusterfuck bullshit finish. Because how many times do you want Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair to get pinned clean? Unless you're going to advance that storyline where there's a fallout between the two. And as of right now, I don't see that coming. So anyway, before we go any further, got a couple of announcements to make and something really, really fucking cool. I do have a wrestling bucket list. There are a few things that I still want to check off. One of the things, well, there's a few, but one of the things that is really high on my bucket list is to find lost footage of stuff that I did, 18 years ago, 15 years ago, certain events that card in Spanish Harlem when I got into it with Sandman, and that night I managed, I think, Reefer and Homicide. That night, I think, is one of the greatest moments as far as how I felt and how everything came off. There's a couple of things with FTW, just everything I did with that Purple People Beater Eater, but there was also another one. A lot of you know already that the first time I ever did anything on camera was in 2006. And part of what I did that night was actually bring out Abdullah the Butcher to beat the shit out of lowlife Louis Ramos. Now, imagine this nobody, never been on camera before, not properly trained yet. And here I am getting thrown into a 2000 attendance, a crowd of 2,000, and one of the persons I bring out is Abdullah the Butcher. Kind of pressure, right? Well, people have told me over the years that there's an Abdullah the Butcher video out there that I'm on from that night. And there's backstage stuff, and I honestly did not remember it. All I remember from that night is that when I first went backstage and shared the locker room with a lot of people, you go up to everybody and you shake their hand. Doesn't matter how high you are in the card or how low you are in the card. You go up to every single person. Hey, how's it going? Anthony de Blasio. Or you say, your name, your character name. That's why, some people found it a little bit odd that CM Punk held that gripe against the Insane Clown Posse for so many years. You might remember recently Violent J going on Conrad's podcast, and Violent J saying that, for a very, very long time, CM Punk held a gripe against him because the first show they ever worked together, the ICP did not go up to CM Punk and shake his hand. And I know for some people out there that it sounds trivial, but going up to every single person and showing respect and introducing yourself is kind of a commandment in wrestling. You ask anybody, and, listen, that is one of the things that I was told early on, and that's the only thing I remember from that night. Well, this is the picture from that night, which I know a lot of you have seen over the last 18 years. And for a few wisest out there that get mad when I show my own stuff, this show is called The Sit Down with Don Tony. You're sitting down with me and we're talking about us. And sometimes there's a few people that kind of enjoy me reminiscing to things that we did 20 years ago. So yeah, you best damn believe that I'm going to have some fun with everybody here. This is not about showing anybody up or bragging, but that was from that night. First time I ever was on camera. Well, just out of nowhere, get a load of this. This past Tuesday, I did a Patreon show. And every other week we do an episode that's called Off the Cuff. And it gives everybody that's a Patreon an opportunity to send in a question or a comment for the show. And somebody by the name of Richard Ramirez, that has been one of our patrons for about 7 years, never posted a comment before, just out of nowhere, says, and he did not listen to the show here about me talking about footage from yesteryear. He shows up on Patreon this Tuesday and he says, hey, I was just watching an Abdullah the Butcher video and you're all over it. Did you get paid that night? How did it all go down? And this and that. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? And he contacted me and he gave me the information and I got the fucking video. Now, obviously, I can't show a lot of it because we don't want to get in trouble, with copyright. But this is a screenshot from that video. And a little bit later on, I'm going to share with you about 90 seconds of yours truly backstage that night preparing for the first ever time that I was on camera with Louis. First ever time on camera, period. And you'll see how goddamn nervous I was. And even Louis, and again, I never saw this footage before. Never saw it until this week. And Louis's like, this guy's talking in character while we're backstage. It's a really, really awesome moment. I'll share it in a few minutes. We'll share it in a few minutes. I got to mention a couple of quick announcements. Then we're going to get right into questions. And then I'll show you the video a little late. Because remember, we're going to finish the show a little bit early tonight for a few reasons. Now, the biggest announcement I could tell you right now, and a lot of you are already aware of it over the last 24 hours. This is not a history lesson about yours truly, but it has to do with content going forward. I started my wrestling hotline in 1997. From 1997 to 1999, I had a hotline that you call a telephone number and you hear me talking wrestling. In 1999, late 99, I came up with the idea that the hotline took off so good. Why don't I somehow get the audio into my computer and play them on a computer so the whole world could hear the hotlines for free? So in 1999, I started putting hotline reports on the internet. And I think that's why, when people think I'm nuts when I say I think I honestly have the Guinness as far as doing podcasts. I mean, obviously we didn't call them podcasts at that time, but in 1999, we were putting 20, 30-minute episodes online. So at that time, I was doing a hotline report almost every day, a daily update, about 20 minutes a day. First, it was 20 minutes, and then it got up to as much as 40 minutes, and we would do it pretty much every day, at least 6 days a week. So in 2004, when we were able to start doing things online directly, we stopped doing a daily update, and it started pretty much being 2 times a week, Monday nights and Thursday nights. So since 2004 and 2005, I have not done a daily update. And over the last 19 to 20 years, people have said to me, you should bring it back. You should bring it back. Do a little update, even if it's for a few minutes, cover whatever's going down. And I was always against it because we have the big show on Monday. We have other content. But more and more people have been asking for it over the last couple of years. And I started thinking about it. And as people are really digging the old nostalgia stuff that I've been putting up, I started listening to my old stuff. And it brought back a lot of memories. It brought back a lot of fun of doing an update every single day. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to bring it back, number one, it cannot be crazy amounts of work. All right. We get paid almost nothing. We make almost nothing on these shows. Believe me. I mean, 10 years ago, a little bit different because there wasn't much competition. Now there's thousands of shows out there. So, we have to, obviously budget our time properly. Can't spend 3-4 hours a day on something to make $8 on. But I also don't want to burn myself out. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it balls to the wall or nothing. That's why the history shows I did were the hardest project I've ever done with this stuff. History shows were the hardest because those were 3 or 4 hour shows, and I had to go through 40, 50 hours of audio and research every single week just to put an episode together. So I said, if I'm going to bring back the daily report, I got to do it easy. I want to have it recorded and done within an hour. I already have a lot of my sources, and there's obviously reliable journalists online that I can give them credit for their research as well. And I said, okay, I'm going to bring it back. And my original thought was I'm going to bring it back August 1st. But last night, I was like, you know what? Why am I waiting? So last night, late at night, I recorded the first daily update. For everybody that is asking where you can access the daily update, it is on DonTony.com. It's on all the audio platforms, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. There's also an ad-free version on Patreon. There's an ad-free version for our channel members here. And on YouTube, I add little media, thumbnails, pictures, little video down the line. Yesterday's episode went 49 minutes, which is a lot longer than what I wanted to be going forward. But I spent about 10 minutes at the beginning explaining to everyone what these are going to be. So going forward, you're going to get a daily update. My guess is at least 5 updates a week. We really don't need to do 2 on the weekends unless the news is very heavy on the weekend. But if you go to dtkcshow.com right now, or any audio platform that you get the content from, you could check out the daily update that I did this morning. We got into a lot of stuff. So that is something going forward. Now, for everybody that's going to say, is it on regular YouTube? The answer is no. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, I want to do it for a month and see how it takes off. obviously, if there's not much interest in it, it ain't going to last. But I could tell already over the first 12 hours, as far as numbers goes, that I think people want a quick 20-minute, right to the point, and it's very retro. It's very old school. Yesterday's report made me feel like it was 2005 all over again. Covering news, but also giving a little bit of opinion here and there, but forcing myself to move on, get into stuff and move on. And so that's what you have going forward. So for everybody that's been asking for more content, you got it. The episodes will be hosted by me solo, only because Kev has a very heavy work schedule during the week. He also does 3 podcasts a week too. So his schedule and mine are a little bit different. So I'm going to do another one tomorrow, and I plan on doing another one Sunday night for Monday morning. As of now, I'm going to record these late at night. It's only going to take me an hour to record, put it online, go to bed, because I don't have to it's not going to be live and it's not going to be video. Channel members, yeah, I add media to it, but that's not hard to do, especially when it's only a 20-minute report. It's not going to be hard. So you're going to get at least 1 or 2 updates this weekend. And as we go, we'll fall into a groove, and it'll just be daily news updates. I thought about a goofy name like the Daily Don. Hey, how's it going? It's the Daily Don. At least it's not my old hotline name. We had the Blackheart Sports Entertainment Hotline. We had the Minority Report. We had Anthony the Funker. But the greatest one of all time was the G-Spot. And if you don't believe me, next week I will show you a screenshot from wrestling-news.com from around the year 2000. And if you click the category where it says hotline, it says call the free wrestling hotline, the G-Spot. Because this is my motto, when it comes to reporting accurate news, we hit the G-Spot every time. That was legitimately my hotline name for about 8 months. And people are like, what the fuck is that? The G-Spot. So no, we're not doing that. It's just going to be, what's up, everybody? This is your daily news update for blah, 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 blah. I'm Don Tony. Hope everybody's having a good day. And then we get into it. So that's the deal. 2 other announcements. For our Patreon family out there, Kev Castle, Thursday nights. Going forward, his live streams are going to start at 8:30 p.m. instead of 10:30 p.m. He would like to start them earlier so he can actually try to get a little bit extra shut-eye, especially, the health scare he had recently. Allows him to finish at a more reasonable time. So going forward, starting this Thursday, 8:30 p.m., mark it down. Last but not least, channel memberships here on YouTube is going to be changing. Starting September 1st, there's only going to be 1 tier. And the reason why is because, number one, everybody gets the same additional content. You get the enhanced version of the DTKC show. You get the archives. I have so many people in one of the tiers. They're like, hey, where's last week's show? And I would tell them very politely, look, you only get the show for this week. Where's the old school Minority Report stuff? Well, you have to be here. So rather than keep doing that, we're just going to have 1 tier. Plus, it'll also make the contests, the predictions contest, a lot easier. Everybody has the same shot. We might keep the wild card thing because people find that a lot of fun. But starting September 1st, there's just going to be 1 tier here, and that's it. So going forward. And yeah, the daily news is on there too, obviously. So, all right. Let's get into some questions, and then we'll get into some footage. You know what? Before we get into some super shout outs, let me give a much appreciative love to everybody who is live right now. As I always say, if you enjoy what we do, spread the word. I don't normally tell you to do this on YouTube, but, if you want YouTube to tell others, that you enjoy what we do over here. Obviously, smash that thumbs up, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff is free. So Benjamin is saying it hopes it doesn't use up material for the DTKC show. No, the Don, Tony, Kevin Castle show is a discussion show. We discuss the news. What I'm doing daily is more of what we used to do in the Wrestling Hotline. Go check out this morning's episode that came up, and you'll get a good feel as far as what it's all about. So it's not live. It's not going to be live. I'm going to record them whenever I feel like it at night. Yesterday, I think at like 11:30 at night, I said, all right, let me come in here for an hour. Let me record. Let me put it online and then get to sleep. By 1:30, I was out. So, all right. Yeah, look, Kev and I want to get back to number one. There's no question about it. The only way we're going to do that is to be consistent, be honest, be authentic. And, we also want to have fun. It is pretty strange. I'll admit this. It is kind of strange that after 27 years, I still find this shit fun. I still find this shit, like, I look forward to it. When Kevin and I do Monday nights, we don't just, I'm telling you, we even said it this past week. We don't ever say to each other, I don't really want to do the show tonight. Let's just wing it. Let's just talk about Raw and just, get out of there. We look at it almost like an event. And I think that's why the retro episodes still have a lot of shelf life, because there's a lot of fun discussion, a lot of laughs. It's not forced. It's just natural. It's kind of strange that after 27 years, I still find this fun. So, the idea of doing the additional content is obviously spread the word even more, and have fun in the process. It was actually kind of fun yesterday to talk a little bit about some news that I probably would not have normally covered. And tomorrow's episode is I already have a bunch of news planned for tomorrow that transpired from yesterday to today. And there's obviously some big things that are going down. So, here recorded at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah, if I'm half asleep, trust me, you'll know if I record it late. Because you'll hear my voice and I'll sound like Barry White. If you hear me at like 2, 3 in the morning, half asleep, when I talk, it doesn't even sound like me. So if you hear me sounding awful, I'm either sick or I decided, let me bang it out at 3:00 in the morning. I can't sleep. So, all right. Let's get into some shout outs, some questions. We'll show that little video clip in a couple of minutes and we'll get out of here. First off, BTC 316. Thank you for the 10 spot, brother. Heard your earlier report about Pat McAfee. If he has to take time off from Raw, do I think the new hire, Joe is it Tessitore? See, it sounds Italian. So, if he's Italian and he looks Italian, it's like, hey, Tessitore, Joe Tessitore. They probably say Tessitore, right? I'm going to say Tessitore. Could he fill in for Pat McAfee? Jimmy Smith did a decent job without WWE experience. I'll tell you something. Yesterday, when we talked about Pat McAfee on the Daily Update, for those that don't know, Pat McAfee is going to be going back to ESPN's College Game Day this fall. College football starts, I believe, the last week in August. Pat McAfee, as far as I heard, is going to be missing some Raw. Who fills in for Pat McAfee? Now, BTC sent this in a couple of hours ago. So I went and I did a little bit of research on Joe Tessitore, and I found the press release that WWE released about him a month ago. Something that I found very, very interesting, and I think I know where this is going. if you look at the WWE press release about, and by the way, I think he comes from ESPN. He is kind of like what Jimmy Smith was. No wrestling background, professional sports, very, very, articulate, visually looks good, sounds good. A little bit of charisma, but I don't know how much of that charisma will come off on TV. But check this out. If you check out the WWE press release, they specifically say that this summer, he is going to be sitting alongside Corey Graves and Wade Barrett. And I noticed a lot of wrestling news sites started reporting three-man team, three-man team, three-man team. And I actually think this is what I believe could happen. If you heard my daily update, I was talking about how if Pat McAfee leaves some Raw episodes for ESPN college sports, you need someone that's more color, than anything else. Not necessarily, somebody that's play-by-play, because I think Michael Cole is play-by-play. Having two play-by-plays is kind of That's why Pat McAfee, Corey Graves, they bounced off of Michael Cole so well. Even Jerry the King Lawler back in the day. So the fact that Joe Tessitore is supposedly going to begin with Wade Barrett and Corey Graves, you know what that tells me? That tells me that one of those two guys, Wade Barrett or Corey Graves, is going to be headed over to Raw. I think when Pat McAfee cannot appear on Raw, I think you're going to get Barrett. I think you may end up getting Barrett on Raw with Michael Cole, and then you will have Corey Graves and Joe Tessitore. So I think Joe Tessitore is sitting alongside those two guys to basically get a little bit of feel and experience. Now, obviously, it hasn't transpired yet, and we're already in July, late July. So, if he's going to be doing this on TV, especially if one of those two announcers go to Raw in September and October, he's going to have to learn very, very quickly. Now, BTC brings up Jimmy Smith. That is a great example. Jimmy Smith didn't have a wrestling background. I thought Jimmy Smith did a damn good job. I thought he did a really good job. Actually, I was kind of disappointed when he left. I thought he was very acceptable in that position. Did I think he was long-term? No, I wouldn't say that. But that's what I think is going to end up happening. Do not be surprised. And the reason why I say Wade Barrett going to Raw and not Corey Graves is because Corey Graves is such a veteran at doing the commentating for the WWE machine. Wade has done it for NXT for a long time. But the fact that Corey Graves is so experienced in that, I think Corey Graves could help Joe Tessitore as a two-man duo much more than if it's Wade Barrett and Joe Tessitore. So I have a feeling that's what we're going to end up getting. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. One Fall, thank you for the 50 pesos. He's got two questions. Why am I still blocked on Discord? Because for the last 2 weeks, I can't access it. And if I was a manager on NXT, who would I cut a promo about? Well, to answer the first one, we have some moderators on Discord, and we also have some very strict guidelines on Discord as far as, like certain content, vulgar, putting up risque photos. I'm not saying that you did any of them, but if one of the moderators, I don't know if you've been banned, but if your IP has been banned or it's been blocked automatically, that could be the reason why you don't access it. I will tell you that I've had 3 other people in the last month tell me that they were unable to access Discord for some reason. So I got to look. You might have just been blocked by a bot, because we do have bots working in the background to protect spam alerts. Sometimes when we're not live, some spam tries to post, like links for like free credit cards and stuff like that. So I'll look into it. And as far as Who would I cut a promo about? It depends on who I'm my whoever I'm managing is feuding with. I mean, I've always said, look, if I ever did anything in wrestling again, I would love to continue doing the Italian stuff because a lot of it is from experience. It's authentic. So, just the people I've dealt with over the years, I mean, just the experiences. I think when you kind of know the character you're trying to be, it's a lot easier to do it. So the problem is if you use the stereotypical Italian stuff, it depends on who you're feuding with. I think the Tony D'Angelo stuff, I think WWE's really watered it down over the last 2 years. I also believe that WWE creative really did not understand like what greaseball Italians do this day and age. Like some of the things they did at the restaurant and some of the things with their version of a sit down, you would never do that. Like they look like they were in the back of like a baseball stadium outside doing a sit down. You don't do that. You go in somebody's basement and you do a sit down. You go to the back of a coffee shop and you do a sit down. It's just a lot of the stuff that they did, like, throwing somebody off a bridge. That's like so 1980s. They were just all over the place with Stacks and Two Dimes and Tony D and all that stuff. It was more goofy. So even the outfits, you could wear some Sergio Tacchini stuff. Nobody fucking wears their hair like Tony D'Angelo did for a little while. So, I would, if I ever did anything, it would never be for NXT, like you said, because I think it would need to be a little bit more authentic. There was a tag team in Florida. I don't remember who they were. Maybe someone in the chat remembers. They still work. They're in the Indies. And they're a tag team in Florida, and they do an Italian gimmick. And about 4 or 5 years ago, they were trying to set up an idea where I was going to work an indie event and manage them. Something Brothers. Does anybody remember who it is? I have still a promo that they plugged for the Don, Tony, and Kevin Katz. The Metro Brothers. That's what it was, the Metro Brothers. Somebody was trying to set it up that I was going to manage the Metro Brothers for a night. They support Kev and I, and they do a really, really good greaseball Guido Italian gimmick. The last I saw it. That would be perfect. In fact, I even think they might have had a shot on NXT for a little while early on. I don't want to say they were on the WWE contract, but I'm pretty sure they worked a cup of coffee in NXT. Yeah, look them up, the Metro Brothers. They're actually pretty good. I mean, I haven't seen their work in a while because I don't follow indies like I used to. If I was involved in the indies more, then obviously it would be different. So thank you, One Fall. Police Squad with the 5 Spy. Have I changed my mind about voting in the election this year? As of now, no. I haven't changed my mind yet. I see what's going on both sides right now, and I'm not thrilled about our politicians. So as of right now, I don't see myself voting. I'll probably vote in my local elections. But as far as president, as of right now, I'm just not intrigued. I just don't feel it. I just feel and listen, this is not going to turn into a political rant, but like I have said, I'm not happy with either side. And I almost feel like the only reason why Joe Biden was replaced was not because they're concerned about Joe Biden. They're concerned about losing power. And that's two totally, totally different things. Joe Biden, hasn't changed, the way he talks and acts, over the last 2 weeks. I know he had COVID, but it's not like he had a stroke over the last couple of weeks. And now he's like, he's acting the same way he did 6 months ago, a year ago. The only reason why they replaced him, if you want to take a clip from Rocky 3, you can't win, Rock. You can't win. So there's a big difference between removing someone removing a fucking president, our candidate, removing a fucking president from running a second term, not because he's not well. Of course he hasn't been well. We all know that. But they removed him not because they're concerned about his health. They're concerned about losing. And on the other side, I'm not thrilled about it either. I don't know this J.D. Vance guy. All I know is that, Trump is going to be 80. And if Trump is going to end up being president, look at him. This is not a knock on Trump, but look at him. That motherfucker eats pizza, White Castles, burgers, soda, ice cream. I know people have lived to a very old age eating like junk food and being a little bit overweight. But my God, the guy is going to be 80, so there is a legit chance that over the next 4 years, he could, from natural causes, pass away. Do I want a 39-year-old J.D. Vance as our president, President Vance? I kind of I'm not feeling either side. So as of right now, I don't see myself voting. Just being honest. Dream 101 with the 2 spot. Will Smoked Out return? Do I have hobbies outside of wrestling? I believe it or not, Smoked Out, who used to do the hotlines with us, actually used to work CZW. If anybody goes back to old school CZW, he was a CZW star. He actually reached out to me last week. I have not talked to him yet. He knows we're putting up retro stuff again, and he wants me to reach out to him. So I am going to talk to Smoked Out. And I absolutely would bring him back on just for a retro episode, just to talk, reminisce. You know what the funny thing is about Smoked Out? I'm going to reveal something that'll surprise the shit out of a lot of you out there. He lives 5 minutes away from me, maybe 7 minutes away from me. He literally lives, unless he moved, just like Grim Reaper. For all of you that are fans of Grim Reaper, I could walk to Grim Reaper's house. That's how close he lives from me. But Smoked Out lives a little more than 5 minutes from me. So I could literally just take a ride by him and see what's going on. Yeah, I think, I will have him back on if he wants to talk. I don't even know if he's still into wrestling, to be honest with you. As far as hobbies outside of wrestling, it's very, very difficult. I used to, work on my cars. I used to, do a lot of music, just DJ and mixing, collecting retro stuff. But unfortunately, at my age, it's working office 9 to 5 just to try to pay the bills, having 2 elderly parents that are not in very good health. My mom just beat breast cancer for the 2nd time. My dad had triple bypass a couple of years ago. My wife, is going to be going back to work in the very near future. And then we got 2 dogs. It's like, where do I get, a moment's peace, So hobbies outside of wrestling is not that much time right now. But, I used to love getting into a lot of retro stuff. By the way, next week I'm going to be plugging a very cool retro YouTube channel that shows a lot of retro wrestling collectibles. It actually works for my dad's deli. Believe it or not, another wrestling podcaster out there, I don't want to say his name because he hasn't been doing shows the last couple of months, but a lot of you know him. You have no idea that he actually works in my dad's store also. 2 of them. So next week I'm going to plug one so you could go check out his channel. He's got some impressive fucking retro stuff. Really, really cool retro stuff. Wrestling. So definitely a fun wrestling channel to go check out. Jimmy Fingers with a 10 spot. And this is like a premature ejaculation. It didn't pop up like it came so fast that I didn't see it. But here it is. Jimmy with a 10 spot. It's not a lock for Trump. Democrats waited until Trump chose Vance to pull the bait and switch. He should have chose a woman or a minority to appeal to those voters. It's like Vince Russo booked this. Jimmy, I say this with all due respect. I'm not black, not a woman, and I'm not gay. But if I thought that someone was running for president just to please me because I'm black, female, or gay, I think I would kind of get mad at it. Like I want to see a consistent history of treating blacks, gays, women the right way. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't want simply because, like, okay, you want to pander to a certain group. So you look at what's the most fucked up about this country. And like Kamala Harris, I watched the other day a brief clip that she was talking. She's like, we want to give everybody affordable health care. We want to give everybody affordable child care. And I'm like, I'm in the insurance industry, everybody. And I know how much health insurance costs. And I'm like, the fuck you've been doing for the last 4 years? The only reason why they're doing that is because they want Kamala Harris to come across as the next Obama, female version of Obama. And it's like, okay, you're focusing on childcare and healthcare because people right now have $6,000-$7,000 deductibles. Like, how come you didn't fix that shit for the last 4 years, especially when they were in power? So I personally don't want I don't want Trump to choose somebody who's black just to make black people happy. I think a lot of black people would be pretty pissed off, like, you only chose her because she's black. No, you want to choose someone because they're the right person for the job. I don't have much to say about Kamala Harris. But I do know there's people out there that think that she is equipped for the job, if that's what they believe. I never want someone to be put in office to please me because I'm a certain group. I think that is foolish. I think that's foolish. You want someone in there because they could do the job. And again, you look at Trump's reputation, maybe, very disrespectful to some women out there. I don't know how much disrespect he had towards black or gays. But the one thing I will say about Trump that I noticed in the past, very insensitive sometimes. And sometimes you see like that woman, someone in the chat will know who I'm talking about. A woman got killed from police recently because she had a pot of water. And the cop accused her of going to throw the hot pot of water at her, so he shot her and killed her. And the footage came out. That police officer is now facing, I think, manslaughter because of it. And when I saw that video, I thought of something that I said about 5 or 6 years ago. The problem with a lot of police these days is not that they're racist, but there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the difference between getting their ass kicked in a fight and fearing for their life. And we have seen several times where a police officer gets into a fist fight with someone and that police officer is getting his ass kicked and he blows the other person away. There's a big difference between getting your ass kicked. Now, if the guy's going for your gun, or pulls out a weapon, that's different. But if I'm getting my ass kicked, that doesn't mean that my life's in danger. It just means, hey, I'm getting my ass kicked. That woman was not throwing a pot of water at her. But you see, Kamala Harris, she reached out to the family. You do that because it's the right thing to do. And there were several times where big tragedies happened, and it just felt like Trump was a little quiet about it. And sometimes even, like you have a, you have a kid that's a problem child, and you're taking him to church, and the kid screams and he plays his Walkman. I'm just trying to reminisce from the 70s, but he's just loud and misbehaves. Now you're going to like a funeral or something, and the parents say, keep quiet. Be on your best behavior. Shut up. Don't do anything. Think that kid's standing there, whether it's a wedding or a funeral or something else, and he's kind of enjoying being forced to keep his mouth shut and he can't fucking be a kid, but he's got to just be quiet. Sometimes you got to act a certain way because it's the right thing to do, not necessarily because, in your gut, you want to do that. And I think sometimes as a leader, you have to show empathy for people that, you may not care that much about. I know that sounds awful, but sometimes you got to show empathy to should send a message. There's a lot of people out there that I can't stand. But if something terrible happens to them directly or indirectly, I will send condolences. Because, it's the right thing to do. You feel bad. I don't wish ill on much of anybody unless they do wrong to my family or to me personally. So, yeah, Trump is his own worst enemy many times. He's very, very thick-headed. He's set in his ways. So, I don't know what's going to happen with this election. All right. Before we go any further with more questions, we're at 50 minutes. I think we'll finish this in like 15, 20 minutes. We'll go a little over an hour. I don't want this to go too long tonight because I do have some legitimate things I got to take care of tonight before it gets too late. Plus, there's going to be some additional content this week. Tomorrow's update for the daily update is only going to be probably like 20, 25 minutes. I already have a good idea as far as what we're going to talk about. I mean, one of the things is obviously Triple H and Nick Khan going to England. Did you see the belt? Did you see that belt? I don't have the pictures here. I mean, Kevin and I are going to have a field day with it on Monday. But they posed with, I think his name is Sahid Khan or something Khan. And he's the mayor overseas. I don't remember what his position was. He's obviously very high up in England, or London, I should say. They had him posing with a belt that was like this big. And it was it's the funniest thing because I know it's probably a really expensive version of the belt. And who knows, it might be like gold or, some type of really, really good material. I mean, if you think Jim Cornette and you think of his old jokes about Trevor Murdoch and a motorcycle with a bucket of chicken, you look at that title and you kind of like picture like, oh, I could see Jim Cornette cracking a Trevor Murdoch joke with that title. That title's like this big. I guarantee you some porn stars are like, I could wrap that around my penis. It's comical. I don't know if that came across to any of you that way. I looked at it, I'm like, what is this thing? And the funny thing is, if you look at Triple H and Nick Khan, they're holding the guy's hand up, each one of them, and it almost looks like, here, hold this up in the air. It's almost as bad as the football players from London that were holding the AEW championship. Did you guys see those pictures? I am going to talk about it on Monday with Kev because I know it'll be a fun laugh. And I will have the photos posted on Discord. We'll put it on channel members. If you haven't seen it yet, this is not a knock on AEW, but it's still funny. If you go on Twitter, look up London football team. I don't remember the name of the team. Maybe someone in the chat knows the name of the team. They're all posing with the AEW championship because AEW is obviously coming to Wembley in August. And there's like 8 different photos of players posing with the belt. 7 of the 8 photos, either the player looks upset, looks like he doesn't give a shit, and there's like 2 where they're wearing like shades so you can't even see their face, like the helmet has got. It's the fun. I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. This is not clickbait. When I post them on Monday, you're going to be cracking up. Go on Twitter and go out of your way to see them. There's a couple of guys that are looking at it and they're like, the fuck is this? This is not a WWE championship. The fuck am I holding? It's funny. I think there was only one guy that looked like he actually found it cool to be holding the AEW championship. It's worth a look. I promise you, you'll get a good laugh out of it. Blazing Bolts with the 5 spot. Do I think The Rock will return at Survivor Series in LA? That is definitely a possibility. See, as of right now, you have Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Loa, Solo Sikoa. On the opposite side, you got Roman Reigns and the Usos and probably Sami Zayn. Do you do 5-on-5 at Survivor Series? I say yes. And the thing is, we talked about Hikuleu on Monday, but we also talked about we talked about Zilla Fatu. I don't think Zilla Fatu would be ready for Survivor Series. I think that guy's got to go through the WWE farm system for a couple of years. But if you bring in Hikuleu, then I could see The Rock being at Survivor Series. The problem is, a lot of people still think you're going to get Rock and Cody Rhodes in some capacity before WrestleMania. And I'm not convinced. I mean, a lot of people were convinced that people reported it. Randy Orton and Gunther could have a rematch based on what Triple H, and I remember that night saying, guys, they ain't having no fucking rematch. I know what Triple H said, but understand this is pro wrestling, it's sports entertainment. He's going to say what's politically correct and the right thing to do. You know, I hate to break it to some people out there. I'm not saying you guys, but most of you are smart enough to realize this. Referee did not fuck up. There was no botch. The controversy is that Randy got his shoulder up, so it didn't look like a clear-cut, clean pin. So when Triple H says, the referee's decision is fine, them people are actually making it seem like, oh, Randy got, he got gypped. No, that was the fucking storyline. Randy, you're going to lose this match, but we're going to have a little controversy where the ref counted to 3 with your shoulder up. So when people look back on it 5 years from now, they'll be like, well, Randy lost, but he really didn't lose. That's pro wrestling. That's what creative is. And people out there think that Randy got gypped. He deserves a rematch. He's going to get a rematch. We never in a million years ever thought Gunther and Randy Orton were going to have a rematch to determine a number one contender. So when you see things like this, understand this is creative. They want you to think it's botched. They want you to think that something didn't go as planned. And Triple H sounds like the saving grace. Triple H comes from the Vince McMahon regime since 1995. Guy's been there 30 years. I know people hope, that he is different than Vince, and obviously he is. He's adapted to the times. He also understands that his father-in-law is no longer the one making the shots. Ari Emanuel has no emotional ties to Triple H. If Ari Emanuel and enough people there think time to make a change, Triple H will be out of there. It wasn't too long ago that people said, oh, Nick Khan is positioning himself to sell all his shares because he's going to leave WWE. And him and Triple H are going to leave, and Vince is going to start his own wrestling company, and Vince might align with Jeff Jarrett and so that. And I'm like, how could people be so gullible at any of that? Any of it? All bullshit. So if Rock comes back at Survivor Series, he could have enough time to do something with Cody, maybe at the Royal Rumble. But you got to set up Rock and Roman Reigns for WrestleMania 41. And as of right now, I think the final boss is the heel. I think you got to keep The Rock as a heel. You watch that WrestleMania documentary. We're not going to go there about, what was planned and what wasn't. Rock trying to brainwash people that the final boss was the greatest heel in the history of pro wrestling. You think they're going to turn him babyface for WrestleMania 41? They're painting that picture, the final boss, greatest heel. Of course, he's got to beat the balls off of Roman Reigns. So I think Roman is the babyface. Rock is the heel. Now the question is, does Rock turn on Roman at Survivor Series? Does Rock become a participant in Survivor Series? Rock could do it. 5-on-5, Rock doesn't have to do all that much. So it is definitely doable. We just got to find out who is going to be the other member that's going to be part of this. So Bobby Means with a 2-spot. Do I see Bryan Danielson coming back to WWE? Not right now. I think one day Bryan Danielson will go back to the WWE. I am still, as of right now, sticking to what I said 3 years ago, that Bryan Danielson has made a concerted effort to tell Tony Khan from day one, I do not want to be world champion. I want you to focus on others. I mean, that could change it all in. I haven't done predictions yet. But Bryan Danielson, people think he's retiring this year. I'm not 100% convinced of it. And the reason why I say that, has anybody paid attention to Bryan Danielson matches in AEW? This guy does a lot of shit that WWE would not dare allow him to do if he was still working for them. And I'm not criticizing Bryan Danielson right now. My point is, Bryan Danielson eats, sleeps, shits, either his family or wrestling. And does anybody think, truthfully, that like that, he's just going to hang up his boots and never wrestle ever again? I could see him maybe taking a year off and doing something a little here and there, but he doesn't come across as extremely tired, extremely injured, dealing with unbelievable pains that, look, I just got to get through this last bit of it and then I'm done. It doesn't feel that way. If you think of Terry Funk, Beyond the Mat, think of Terry Funk Beyond the Mat. If you remember that documentary, I mean, of course, we know Terry Funk never retired, but if you go look up to that point, Terry Funk legitimately wanted to retire. His knees, his hands, he wanted to be with, more with his family. That guy legitimately wanted to hang up his boots, and he had the match with Bret Hart. I have that card still. I think Sabu took on Mankind that night, which was cool because Sabu was still ECW. Mankind was now in the WWF. There were other great matches too. But Terry Funk, up until that point, people honestly thought that he was retiring, and he didn't. I don't feel Bryan Danielson full-blown retiring. I think one day he will be back in the WWE. The big question is when. Tony Khan is paying, Shahid Khan is paying a crazy amount of money for a lot of wrestlers right now in AEW. And I hope to God a lot of you tuned into Monday's show. This was not to stick it to Tony Khan, but Tony Khan is not a billionaire. It has been proven he's not a billionaire. But something that I discovered along my research, which is very, very important to point out. Very important to point out. I think the link is tinyurl.com/Tony Not a Billionaire. I think that's the link I made. If you go to that link, look up Tony Khan's dad, Shahid Khan. What you will notice is that 2 years ago, his worth went up like $5 to $7 billion in 1 year. It went up between $5 and $7 billion in 1 year, his father. And when you see, even when you hear, oh, they pay $100 million in payroll a year to the wrestlers, his fucking father that signs the checks gained $7 billion more money in 1 year. If he paid an extra $50 million out to sign Tony's Wet Dreams, you realize that $50 million is 5% of $1 billion. He made $7 billion or $5 billion. That extra $50 million is not even 1% of the profit. The additional billions that Shahid Khan made in 1 year. This isn't just his worth. If you look at the grid from that link, you will see I think it was 2021, you'll see him like this, and you'll see this. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't hear anybody reporting that Tony Khan's father made an extra $7 billion in net worth in 1 year. Nobody reported that. So Bryan Danielson, if Tony Khan wants him that bad, he'll grossly overpay to keep him. And when you have that kind of money, really, I mean, as much as we criticize Tony Khan, latest one was he would work with the Harvey Weinstein of wrestling. He would do a giant show, a fantasy show, which is just ridiculous. But putting all that stuff aside, if you had that kind of money where you would pay $100 for a slice of pizza if you wanted it that bad, and you got that kind of money, I mean, really, like, how does anybody criticize him? Tony Khan's not married, doesn't have any kids. His father is making billions and billions and billions a year. Honestly, I mean, you can't take it with you. I mean, he donates to charity, obviously, for tax write-offs. We've had conversations about that before. But put yourself in that position. If you had that kind of money and you could have, your own promotion and you had that much kind of expenditure, and then you find out that, you could get in, hey, Tony, Shahid Khan makes another $7 billion. Hey, Tony, here's another $100 million. Buy whatever you want with it. Tony Khan doesn't buy another yacht. Tony Khan doesn't buy another Lamborghini. Tony Khan buys Mercedes Moné, buys Okada, buys Will Ospreay. Buy it. That's his money. He do whatever he wants with it. So that's why I don't criticize him about that. So, okay. Before we go any further, I want to show you that clip. Just a little old school DT. You'll appreciate it. So this was the night. This was the first time that I ever did anything on camera. First time I ever did anything for a wrestling promotion in front of the camera. I was always doing stuff behind the scenes. Didn't know what the fuck I was doing. What you're about to see is from this Abdullah the Butcher video. And this footage, a couple of days ago, is the first time I ever saw this footage. It's from 2006. And you will see me and Louie talking about what we're going to do out there and how I'm going to end up bringing out Abdullah the Butcher and bringing out Mana the Polynesian Warrior and, doing this and that. And it's funny, like I said, because Louis even makes a joke as if like I'm talking as if, it's shoot behind the scenes. Like, it's funny. I think some people out there will appreciate this. I just can't believe that I never saw this before. And again, Ralph Ramirez, thank you very much for bringing this to my attention. It's only about 2 minutes long. Enjoy it. Let me put the audio here. Hopefully the audio works perfect because I don't normally screenshot live video online. So I did a test run before and it worked. So we shall see right now. I got to put my headphones on for this. Oh, and by the way, I don't know why that Godfather stuff was playing in the background. That was not for me at that time because I had no music. It's coming. It's coming. I think I just fucked it up. And I'm not kidding, too. I think I just fucked it up. I paused the audio, and I think it got fucked up. Let me try it. Let me see if this works. Ah, shit. I think we may have to hold off on this. Hold on a second. Let me try this again. Ah, that sucks. Can you guys, yeah. I think we fucked up the audio. Shit. Did you hear any audio at all when you first saw it? I'm a little curious. Did you hear any audio at all? You know what? Maybe I can fix it. Let me try something here. Let me try one thing here. Fuck. We may have to hold off a week on this. Oh, they said they heard a little. You know what I'm going to have to do? Yeah, I'm gonna probably have to. You know what? Let me try this. Hold on a second. Let me know if you hear this. We may have to hold off to next week. Yeah. Shit, that sucks. You know what? Let me try one thing. Let me just try one thing here. I know you could see this. I'm gonna try to fix this. Let's see. Audio device. Fuck. That sucks, man. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Oh, yeah, let's see. Let's try line. Let's try line. Let's see if this works. It'd be pretty cool if you get this to work. Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. Duo chat. Okay, hold on. I think I could figure this out. Let me just try one thing here. Dual chat. Let's try this. You might hear, yeah, you hear dual echo. I'm going to try one more thing. We may have to hold off to the next show. Sorry. Let's try duo main stereo. Oh, that. Ooh. Hold on a second. Let me see if this audio works. Hold on. I know it sounds crazy. Just give me 1 second. I want to see something. Okay, I think I can fix it. Hold on. I think I can fix it. I think we fixed it. Let me know if you can hear it now. Hold on. Shit, it doesn't work. Damn. Why does it not work, man? Let me try this. All right, one more shot. No. Damn, no audio. That sucks. All right. Well, I'll at least show you this. Hold on. Just look, you'll see me. Yeah, look. All right. So at least you saw that little bit. That sucks, man. That sucks. Yeah, there was audio for a second. Go back to the echo setting and don't talk over the video. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think I can mute myself. Hold on. Nope. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe I fixed it. Let me see. Hold on. No. It's not going to work. Yeah, it's not going to work. All right, we'll do it next week. The video's not going anywhere. We'll do it next week. Sorry, guys. Sorry, but hey, at least look, at least you could see. Look. You could see. See, that's where I was going to shove the money in his mouth. And then when I was in the ring, he was like, staple it to my head instead. So, all right, I'll show you next week. We'll do it next week. No, if I talk, even if I mute my microphone, it just vibrates in the background. I'll fix it. We'll do it next week. But it's funny when you hear us discussing the match and discussing how everything's going to go down. It's pretty freaking funny. But yeah, that was just bizarre. After 18 years, I finally got to see that footage. So, the problem is that I can't cap the video into my computer. I've been trying to burn it and screenshot it, and every time I do, I get a blank screen. If I could record that video into my computer, then I just play it like a video file. So that's probably going to be my job over the next 7 days. I'm going to somehow get that video burned into my computer. And I've tried a few different programs already, and it won't do it. But I'll try to do it that way, and then we'll share it next week. So it's not the end of the world. The video's not going to go anywhere. We waited 18 years. We could wait a little bit longer. So at least I didn't fuck up my audio here, because that would have been disastrous to close out this show. All right, so let's get back to questions. Where are we? We're at an hour and 15 minutes. So let's go exactly 90 minutes and then we'll jet out of here. I think that's pretty fair. Let's do that. Let me just pull back up my questions. Mr. Fingers, Jimmy Fingers, 19, DT, when you first started watching wrestling back in 79, who besides Andre was the first to captivate me enough that made me want to tune in week after week? Who was my first top guy? My first top guy was in 82 with Jimmy Snuka. I liked Backlund. I didn't get to go to a wrestling event until 1982, I believe it was. But I was a fan of Backlund, even though he sucked cutting promos. But he was just like kind of like I don't want to say a role model, but kind of looked up to him. At the time. I mean, I was a preteen. I didn't know much. Plus, you got to understand, when I watched wrestling in 79, I didn't understand what I was watching. When I got yelled at by my mother for watching it and her yelling at my grandmother for letting us watch it, that's when I knew that I needed to see more. It wasn't until 81, 82 when I started to really understand what I was seeing. Jimmy Snuka was the first one that really made me really over the top. Andre was just an attraction, and Andre was not featured on TV that much. Andre had squash matches, and Andre was obviously larger than life, and the way they did the camera work made him seem even taller than 7'5", and whenever Vince McMahon would stand next to him, it was pretty amazing. But still, he was more of an attraction. You really did not get a chance to see him enough on television to really there was a lot of freaks that you'd be like, look at them like, holy shit, what am I looking at? But Snuka was the first one for me, Snuka. Dwayne X, how do I feel about Drake Maverick managing Pretty Deadly? I like Drake Maverick. I still don't understand why he was with AOP for that time. I think Pretty Deadly are strong enough on the mic that they don't need a manager. I don't think they need a manager. Drake Maverick, as much as I like him, he's got the comedy down pat, and it's pretty wild to think back to when he was on TV with his wife. I mean, my God, he scored with his wife, but it's not a bad pairing. I mean, obviously they would click. I just don't know if Drake Maverick is needed as a manager for Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly are good enough on their own. I'll be honest with you. I'm shocked that WWE has not been able to do more with Pretty Deadly since he's been on the main roster. They've been on the main roster. I'm a little baffled with the continued usage of the Street Profits. I mean, I'm not saying that either one are going to leave WWE anytime soon, but when you hear sometimes people being unhappy with their position in WWE, look, Angelo Dawkins, big family man, making a comfortable salary in WWE. I don't think that guy would be main event in AEW. So I think he probably realizes his bread is best buttered in the WWE. Montez Ford is a different story, though, and I'm still confused why it's that difficult with two sets of the tag team championship belts that they can't figure out a way to put the Street Profits as the number one team. I get it. Ciampa and Gargano have worked hard and they're getting a chance, but that doesn't take away the fact that WWE, in my opinion, has done a shit job with the Street Profits for the last 2+ years, over 2 years. So I'm a little surprised on how WWE has handled Pretty Deadly. But then again, for some reason, they think Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin should be a tag team. I don't see that tag team lasting, and I think Baron Corbin will ultimately turn heel and turn on Apollo Crews. But to me, it's like, really? Like, why is this a tag team? It's just, I'm a little confused that some of the teams that they have right now. So, all right. We have one more super shout out to get into, and then we'll finish up some questions. How come I can't? Oh, okay, I can see it. DeMarcus, thank you, my friend, for the 5 spot. If Kenny Omega jumped to the WWE, do I think he would get backlash from his fans? I'm not a fan, but if he did, it would break the internet. Would he get backlash? It depends on how he left AEW. If he was leaving and the fans felt that he did everything that he could do in AEW and it was time to step away, I don't think there would be as much backlash, but understand this. Cody Rhodes, even though he did everything professional, he never really badmouthed AEW at all. He shows nothing but love to the Young Bucks, nothing but love to a lot of people in AEW, wants to see AEW succeed, roots for AEW, and yet still he gets a decent amount of hate from AEW fans. I think it's natural. And I think Kenny Omega, no matter what he did, even if we learn that Tony Khan just felt that Kenny Omega couldn't do it anymore and Tony Khan released him, I think that might be the only way Kenny Omega would avoid getting heat, is that Tony Khan we would have to learn that Tony Khan let Kenny Omega go because he thinks that he's too old and can't do it anymore. That's the only scenario, because you know what? I'll compare it like this. Think baseball for a minute. Wherever you live, even if you want to use football or soccer or hockey or basketball, whoever your hometown team is, think of your greatest rival as a team. Here in New York, the Yankees, their greatest rival has always been the Red Sox. So now picture a player from the Red Sox jumping to the Yankees, or picture a player from the Yankees jumping to the Red Sox. Even if that person is the nicest person around and has nothing but love to say about his prior team, you will still get a lot of hate from the other team. It's just a way of life. It happens in basketball. It happens across the board. I remember when Shaq left left Florida, and then he ended up going ultimately to Los Angeles for the Lakers. And I remember Shaq getting a decent amount of heat because he picked up and left. Look at LeBron when LeBron left Cleveland, and look at the heat that he got. I mean, there's been some really good players, really, really nice, good-hearted players. You know, it's very rare to see someone get no heat when they leave for the competitor. I think that's the only way. It's the only way. Yeah, I was thinking Johnny Damon, Big G. I actually was going to bring up Johnny Damon, but that wouldn't have been a good idea. Look, Pedro Martinez. When Pedro Martinez went to the Mets, I fucking loved it. I still remember the game. Remember when all the sprinklers went off? If anybody remembers that, props to you. But still, a lot of Red Sox players were livid that Pedro Martinez went to the Mets. But it was a little bit different because Pedro Martinez, you know, it was time for him to leave Boston. So Kenny Omega could still go, but it really depends on how his AEW exit goes down. If he leaves for new opportunity, not necessarily just money, but opportunity and the new crop of wrestlers he could work with, he'll get a lot of heat. He'll get heat. Let me tell you something. I don't know if anybody has paid attention to it. Have you noticed, is it Max Caster? I think Max Caster is the one that is going on social media and saying Cedric Alexander. Oh, no, Shelton Benjamin. Don't even think about coming to AEW. I think he also said that towards Ricochet and others. If people haven't put two and two together, AEW, Max Caster, and others would welcome these guys with open arms. the vibe online is to try to give this, and some people fall for it, that, we don't want you here. We don't want you here. It depends. Depends. All right. 5 minutes, we're going to leave. Tristan is asking, what did I think of the Billy and Chuck storyline? It's fascinating to look back on it, because Glad was very, very upset at the storyline. Not as it went along. When they didn't get married, I remember newspaper articles with Glad complaining about it. And I remember covering on my history show, and I remember covering on my hotline at the time. And I was like, what did Glad think? Let them really get married? Like, it was interesting, because nobody in their right mind thought that Billy Gunn became gay. And there's nothing wrong with that, but nobody thought that Billy Gunn was gay. It was just a really strange storyline, because there wasn't any physicality on TV. You know what I mean? Like, if you go back and you look at it, I mean, they posed, and, there was a vibe that, the perception was that they were gay, but you didn't see any physicality that, would say, oh, full blown. So when they did the wedding storyline, I'll be honest with you, and I remember this clearly. Everybody was doing a hotline at that time. We were all saying the same thing. Even the people that I hated were saying the same thing. I got to see how they pull this off. No way this is going down the way. I got to see how they pull it off. And obviously, they did what they did, 3 minutes, and we're out of here. And that almost actually pertains to the show. But, we were more intrigued, like, how's WWE going to pull this off? They got a lot of press over it. And I'm pretty sure if you go check out my episode for This Week in Wrestling History, I even think there's a screenshot from one of the newspaper articles. Glad. I'm pretty sure it was Glad. They were not happy. They were pissed. And in fact, more I think about it, there is absolutely a screenshot from a news article at that time. Pro Wrestling Talk is in the house. What are my thoughts on Rikishi being revealed as the one to have run over Steve Austin? Honestly, a lot of people, Rikishi will make you think like we cared that much. I did it for The Rock. People were confused. People did not care as much as you think. And when he fell into that thing of hay back then, people were just like, good. I mean, honestly, it didn't come off. Look, listen, for me, and this is no knock on Rikishi. I have nothing but fond memories of Rikishi's career. He's put a lot of smile on my face back in the day. For me, the greatest thing that came out of Rikishi, turning heel and doing what he did to Austin, was his song Bad Man. I used to fucking crank that song. I'm a bad man, a bad man. That song is a great fucking song. I'm sorry. When Rikishi got Bad Man, I was like, yeah. That was the only thing I think I liked out of it, was just the theme music that came out of it. That's underappreciated. That theme song is underappreciated. Let me ask you all this. When you see these What Culture top 50s, when you see people on Reddit talking about old school wrestling themes, or you see people talking about Attitude Era wrestling music, how often do you ever hear anybody bring up Rikishi's Bad Man? You don't ever. Honestly, I probably on one hand, in 20 years, whatever, 25 years, maybe on one hand, I might have seen that song on a list. That song never comes up. Dwayne says that the Usos used that in Florida Championship Wrestling. That is cool. That is cool. That was a good fucking song, man. I enjoyed that song. Didn't have much lyrics to it, I still have all my theme music from back in the day from Tombstone Radio. So I still have the song, but that was a banger. That was a banger. All right. I shall jet. We are at 90 minutes. So I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. Benjamin, as far as blood and guts and the staple gun, I talked about it briefly on the report from earlier today. A lot of ode to Raven and ECW in that match. Listen, props to AEW for maintaining a decent rating and actually building some viewers as the match went along. I got into the quarter hours earlier today. I didn't enjoy the match as much as I thought I would. I felt bad for Corey Graves getting a lot of heat for his chair shot tweet that he deleted. The guys in the match insisted on doing that stuff. Jack Perry got a lot of love coming out of that match, which is very interesting. If you remember my Jackal thumbnail, that seems to finally be aging well. There was a lot of ode to ECW. I mean, ECW didn't originate everything that you saw there. I used the staple gun back in the day. You saw the picture I showed you earlier. That was only one staple. But, when I stapled Louis' ass, I was like, boom, 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 boom. Staple gun, if you do it in the right area, it actually doesn't hurt as much as you think. I've been stapled once. I will tell you the most vicious staple I ever saw, and I'll leave you with this. Everybody knows that I did a little bit of work for XPW, and I also did timekeeping, and I was the one that rang the bell when they did the ECW arena shows. And at the time, I was very good friends with Daphne, God rest her soul. In XPW, her name was Lucy Fur, because she was not allowed to use Daphne at the time. That's a whole story for a different time with Jimmy Hart and everything else. We've talked about that before. But she was Lucy Fur. And she was the valet for Vic Grimes. And then you had Shane Douglas, who had Lizzie Borden valeting him. And one time they had a match. And believe it or not, I don't think XPW ever released this match on video. And that's a match that's kind of on my bucket list that I would love to revisit. I was sitting at the timekeeper's table when that match happened, and they brawled all over the building, and Shane Douglas stapled Vic Grimes' tongue. I don't remember what he stapled to it. I don't know if it was money. I don't remember what, but he stapled them multiple times. But I remember him stapling his lip, but stapling his tongue. And I remember Vic Grimes walking by the announcer's table, and he literally looks at all of us, and he's like this. And we were just grossed the fuck out because there's blood, and it looked disgusting. And this was not a regular little stapler. These are the contractor staples, but understand this, and I'll leave you with this. You've actually probably appreciate this. If you ever go on Amazon or Home Depot, look up contractor staple guns. All right. A lot of contractors use it for wallboarding. You staple wallboarding, sheetrock, or whatever it is, especially, if you're putting up beams and stuff. And there's different types of staplers and how they attach to staples. And a lot of the staple guns look the same. That's why if you look at AEW, you look at Indies, you look at CZW, you look at others, the staple guns always, New Jack using them, they all of them look almost identical. But there are some staplers that the staples look like this. It looks like an N. this. It looks like an N, the staples. And if you get the right staple gun, when you staple it, it just shoots into the wall like this. If you get the wrong staple gun and you shoot it, it folds underneath a little bit. It like goes like this. And that's the last thing you want to do when you're going to staple like a body part or something, is to have the staple designed to fold over for extra support. That's why sometimes, especially I think in CZW, they would go to like the hardware store and just buy whatever was fucking available. And that's some sick shit, man. If you get the wrong one and you don't have the right, plus the staples matter also. There's industrial strength staples and there's thin ones. You get the wrong one, man, you're fucking putting some serious fucking metal in you. So, yeah, there's actually, I know, despite what Jim Cornette will tell you, there is an art in doing this. I wouldn't call it art. I would say there is a safer way of doing this. It shouldn't be done at all. I want to make that clear. But there is a safer way to do it. You got to be careful, you know. But, yeah, so that's that in itself is another thing. Trust me, when I stapled that money to Louis' head that night, I was scared. I was scared. And once I stapled it, we went to the back and he was fine and he pulled it out. When it was time for me to staple his ass that time, when I signed that contract and stuck the pen up his ass, I was like, I knew it wasn't that bad. So I was like, boom, boom, boom. I stapled him like 7 times. And he's walking around the ring with the contract stapled to his bare ass. When we went to the back afterwards, he was laughing his ass off. I'm like, are you all right? He's like, it's meat. Then it's just like gives you a little pinch. For all of you out there, after the show is over, if you have, do we have a staple gun here? I'm not doing it. I have a toolbox right down here, but I do not have a stapler handy. But I could have at least shot one to show you what I was talking about. There's also staplers that have different settings. So depending on how you use it. But yeah, drop an elbow on that like button. Seriously, if you like what we do over here, you think YouTube should send a message to others like, hey, check out this channel, smash that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe if you're not a subscriber already. Spread the word. You know, Kevin and I are back on a full-time basis. Now we're going to be doing daily updates on top of it. And, you know, yeah, these shows may go 90 minutes instead of 2 hours going forward because every day we're going to, for the most part. Now, I will tell you one thing about these daily updates. There'll probably be like 5 updates a week. I personally don't know if we need an update for Saturday morning and Sunday morning. And I'm definitely not doing one for Saturday morning this week because what transpired in the last 24 hours? Yeah, we have Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor, and yes, we had SmackDown recap. That's a 10-minute report. Anybody could do that. So I'd rather wait till Sunday and get some additional stuff. Plus, we got to talk about the WWE stuff with WrestleMania England, WrestleMania 43 or 44. You know, it's obviously not happening next year, and it certainly ain't happening the year after. And John Cena will not be part of it. Maybe as a host, as the guest host, you know, but not in a wrestling capacity. So everyone have a good rest of your weekend. Keep supporting the website, DonTony.com, DTKCShow.com, wrestling-news.com, which DonTony.com, whatever you use to navigate to the site. Kevin and I will be live on Discord Monday night, 11:15 p.m. That's going to be a good one. Obviously, we'll talk about Raw. We got some news to get into, but we're also doing predictions for SummerSlam. SummerSlam looks like it's going to be 7 matches. That should stick because SmackDown next week, we have 2 tag team title matches going down. So, you know, it's an easy card to go over, but obviously there's a lot of unknowns. Oh, and one other thing, I don't know if I have the thumbnail handy. I don't. Oh, yes, I do have it handy. In case you all are interested, especially those on video. 2 weeks from now. Is it 2 weeks from now? Yes, 2 weeks from now. August 11th, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Kevin and I will be on YouTube doing a live discussion, ask us anything, Q&A. We're going to be doing a loaded show. That'll be 2 weeks from this Sunday. We were going to do that before SummerSlam, but we decided against it because one thing that we didn't want to do was wonder if Roman Reigns was going to show up at SummerSlam, wonder if the Usos were going to finally return, wonder if, we decided to do it after SummerSlam because a lot of those questions would have been answered. And then we could look to the road to Bad Blood. What happens with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes? Then you got Survivor Series. And then before you know it, we're at the end of the year. And then you start the road to the Royal Rumble. And then everything just kicks into gear. So Sunday night, August 11th, 8 p.m., join us. We're going to go as long as needed. If a lot of people tune in live and a lot of people join us, and even with the super shout-outs, they keep coming in, we're going to keep going. We go as long as necessary. So, but it'll start at 8 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully you can join us. And I'm out of here. Everybody have a good rest of your weekend. I catch you all again. Your daily updates coming this weekend, and then Monday live, 11:15 p.m. in Discord.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.